Hello there. I keep getting emails and comments asking me about how I built my VoiceOver booth, so I'm going to give you a quick rundown on how I did it. It's complete nerdy stuff and it's coming right up, so good day and welcome to the Time Preservation Society. I'm Bastian Balthazar Bucks. You know what's great? Liking this video and subscribing. Maybe even a comment or a share. Sure helps me help you. Help me help you. Back in the old days, when I lent my voice to various commercials or projects, I would either do it in a pro studio I was working in, or a closet full of clothes, or just in an overly furnished room. Recently, I've been hired to do more voiceover work, and I admit I really enjoy it. So I thought it was time to construct a booth specifically for that purpose. And by thought it was time, I mean finally got approval from the wife. It was a big ask though. Take half of our tiny cold storage cellar room and convert it. I wasn't going to pay $10,000 for a whisper room or a Studio Bricks booth. And by wasn't going to pay $10,000, I mean literally don't have anywhere close to that amount of money. So I had to improvise. I understand acoustics on some unconscious level. Not the math, just a good understanding. I suppose it comes with experience or something like that. I've done stuff like this before, many times. For example, this studio acoustic treatment in the room here was constructed for about $200. It consists of layers of used old blackout curtains and more than a dozen huge, thick moving blankets everywhere. This is an unfinished basement, okay, with curtains and moving blankets as walls. It doesn't even have ceilings, just more moving blankets. The idea is to stop the bounce of sound, particularly the corners and where the walls meet the ceilings and the floors. It was easier in this room because it's kind of a completely open basement, and I've created a virtual separate room with layers of moving blankets, muslin backdrops, and curtains, just layers of it. That's made the walls, which separates the laundry area from my area. It's also a very small space, but absolutely loaded with furniture, shelves, gear, and just things. Lots of things. But it got the job done, and the reflections in here are minimal. The booth, however, was going to take a lot more thought and effort. It's a small, basically unfinished cold cellar with a plywood ceiling that sits below my front porch. It's Reflection City. So this is what I did. Sadly, I don't have much footage from building it because it went up quickly, and I was pressed for time because I had many projects due at the same time. But I did manage to get a little bit on video. So here's the side of the cold storage room where I built the booth. It's a tiny room. In this clip, I had already begun building it. First, my mom gave me an old area rug she had in her garage. I laid that down over the cement floor. Then I put up a single layer of moving blanket on the ceiling. I stapled that on. This is the base layer. It won't stop reflections because it's flush to the ceiling. More will be done to the ceiling. By the way, I got a huge load of 15 used moving blankets from Facebook Marketplace for about $50. Anyway, I was testing the acoustics in the room as I was building it, kind of just testing it out. Really bad at first. Then I bought these bass traps off of Amazon. I didn't expect they would work well, but I was looking for something to be a bass corner layer kind of thing. I later added to that because I was right, they did nothing. When I started doing the walls, I hung moving blankets by stapling them to the ceiling, but about 6 inches from the walls. All walls were covered. I also added a second moving blanket to the ceiling and stapled it, ribboning it. So I let it go slack and kind of hang down every 6 inches or so. Kind of like upside down, uneven moguls. I expected I could fill that with dense shredded denim or something like that later, but I found I didn't need to do anything else. It worked just as is. At this point, I put up a tension rod along the open side of the booth. I got it off of Amazon for about $20, I think. This was a good time to hang the lights. These are just LED strip lights that work with my Google Home. I bought like 32 feet of it and just crudely went around and around the edge of the booth on the ceiling until I ran out of light strip. Then came the curtains. Bridget helped me a massive amount with some tiny finger stuff like zip tying and little screw hooks. Stuff like that kills my fat fingers. So she helped me a lot. Anyway, I bought these 15 by 9 foot blackout acoustic curtains. They were about $65 or something like that. I got 2 of them. We draped them around the room using zip ties and screw hooks that we screwed into the plywood ceiling, and then threaded a curtain properly along the open wall using the tension rod so I could open and close the door, I guess you'd call it. We added another moving blanket on the outside of the tension rod wall for an additional layer there. So that was the wall building. Now came the filling. Unfortunately, I did not film or take photos of this part. We had old tattered outdoor furniture cushions that we were going to throw out anyway, so we used those to line the walls underneath the curtains and moving blankets. Sometimes we just used large diaper safety pins that I had in my field recording bag to connect several cushions together and then hung them in the corners, kind of like in series. I had a bunch of old clothes that hadn't fit me since 1923, so I stuffed a soft backpack guitar case full of those clothes and lined the long wall along the floor. One corner we rolled up a moving blanket and rammed it in there under the curtain and moving blanket walls. Basically, I stuffed every wall and every corner with clothing and cushions until I could fit no more in there. Finally, as luck would have it, we had to buy a new bed because, our backs were getting destroyed with our old beat-up one, and it was time. So, what did we do with the old one? Why, stuff it in the room along the outside of the open wall in the booth, of course. I just rammed it in there. That'll do it. And it did. So then I used the Orca Orcart location sound cart I had and used that as a kind of desk. It's really soft. It works. I put one of my Amaran tube lights in there to illuminate me on camera. I mounted an old iPad 4 to the cart to control my computer out in the studio, and I ran a 50-foot high-quality WBC Pro XLR cable and a headphone cable from the studio to the booth. And, Bob's your uncle. I must say again, when I tested the WBC Pro 50-footer, it sounded great, like pristine. Even running those 50 feet. Man, I love those cables. Anyway, I should say that I also bought a mount to attach my GoPro to the Orcart, and then later added an Aperture MC Pro to the ceiling behind me to help separate me from the background on camera. I also put an old Hercules mic stand in there to mount mics, of course. I can record through the 50-foot mic cable and then into any of my outboard preamps and then into my computer and control it all with the iPad, or I can use one of my sound device's mix pre-recorders in there if needed. So there you have it. This is the VoiceOver booth. What do you think? I think it sounds great. Right now I have the Stam Audio SA87i here because I've been using it for something else, so I figured I would just keep it in here. So the total cost of this build is around $200 US. And so that includes the used blankets, the curtains here, the acoustic blackout curtains, and all the pillows and extra old clothes and crap that I packed the walls with was free because I had it. So I don't know, with that bar up there, about $200. So yeah, I guess I'm very lucky because this is a cold cellar and it's underground. It's kind of not part of the house. It's a separate part and it's underground. So I don't hear any traffic. no matter what time of day. I don't hear any commotion. I only hear the sound of my voice in this booth. Even when people are walking around and doing stuff upstairs, I can't hear it. It's totally separate. So I'm very lucky that Bridget let me build this in this place, because when we moved here, I said, oh man, that's isolated. That would be prime. But here we are. So yeah, I'm very, very lucky. But, it can get hot and stuffy in here. I don't have any ventilation, so also probably not a good idea to rip a wicked huge fart in here, because that could be dangerous. Yeah. So could I have done better? Yeah, I could have done a lot better than what I did. But I did build it in an afternoon. And just after I built it, that very night, I had to record the Loughton Audio commercial. So I had to get it done real fast because I wanted to do it in a booth. And that's why I just kind of threw the lights up like I did and just get it up, get it working. So maybe, I'll do better things, fine tune it, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I incorporate the booth in my tests, so I'm getting some use out of it. I'm doing some other jobs, so that's good. And so what do you think of the sound in here? What do you think? I'm about 6 inches from the mic, and it sounded pretty good, I think. It's not as flashy, it's not as sexy as other booths, but I think it accomplishes the exact same thing for a fraction, I don't even know if you want to call it that, of the price, $200. Yeah, so anyway, this is the booth. Let's go back to the video and finish it. The measurements of the booth are... Oh, hold on a second, let me just find my trusty old measuring tape here. This measuring tape was used by Winston Zedmore when he was measuring the river of slime flowing through the abandoned beach pneumatic transit system running under New York City back in '89, I think. I picked it up from Vigo the Carpathian somewhere in the 16th century. Anyway, the inside of the booth measures 3.5 feet wide and just over 6 feet long. So I think I covered everything in this video, but I might have left something out. So hit me up in the comments and ask me anything you want. Hopefully everything I said made sense. Or maybe you want to tell me how stupid this whole thing was, and that's fine too. Comment below. Oh, also, I've included some links for a few of the items that I bought on Amazon in the description below in case you have, a similar kind of case as I do. So just find a space, line it with layers of moving blankets and curtains, and then just stuff the ever-loving schlart out of it with soft, dense things. It may not be soundproof where you build yours, as in dead silent, but it'll be mostly reflection-proof, and that's the main goal with these things. Well, that'll just about do it for all of me here at the Time Preservation Society. Time to dream up new cool things. But I can't. I have to keep my feet on the ground. Bye now. In transmission. Thank you very much for sticking through this, and hopefully this all made sense. Thanks again. Watch these videos. Bye.